Hello, and welcome back, you cosmic baddies, to a Chakras and Cusswords podcast. My name is Katherine, and I am your host. Today, we are going to talk about Saturn, that big daddy planet, that planet of Saturn entering Aries. But before we get into that, I just want to say welcome. If you're new here, I'm glad you're here. And if you're not new here, I'm glad you returned. But I want to remind everybody that we, as a collective, are here to enhance our knowledge in certain centers around energy. And over here in Chakras and Cusswords podcast, I definitely try to focus on the chakra energy and also astrology. Of course, we get into relationships, a little bit of conspiracies and controversies, and some good old-fashioned birth chart readings from time to time. But if you're really here to get into that chakra energy, I want you to head on over to my YouTube channel where I have a chakra playlist where I talk about the chakras, learning about the chakras, getting an introduction about them, getting in depth in them. The playlist is phenomenal. It's very long. So if you really want to learn about your chakras, go ahead and check that out. But right now we are working on some astrology that is occurring. And one of the astrology moments that is occurring pretty soon is Saturn is entering Aries. And Saturn is a very dynamic planet. Saturn to me is a beautiful, bold energy that feels very determined, and it's very much centered on areas of discipline, responsibility, and karma. Not only does the planet Saturn bring up the areas of maturity, authority, and long-term growth, it also has areas of reflection with boundaries and kind of that karmic energy of showing you what happens when you don't live in, I guess you could say, the cosmic element or alignment that the chaos and even the organization brings from the universe. When we look at boundaries and we also look at karmic ties, it's like that old saying, you reap what you sow. So a lot of times people will see that if they are constantly putting out a certain energy, that energy sometimes comes back to, I guess you could say, bite them in the ass or really grab them by their heels or their bootstraps. It's definitely an area that feels abrupt. There is an energy that almost feels like you are working through certain circumstances. How Saturn feels with us and how it feels in our charts really shows us many different lessons. So Saturn is, in all honesty, I love to call Saturn Big Daddy Saturn. If you're a returning listener, you're probably like, oh goodness, here she goes again. Saturn to me is not only that authoritative energy, but it's also that teacher element, that energy that pushes through time and tests. It allows us to learn these lessons, and it puts the obstacles and responsibilities that we don't necessarily know we want, because we probably don't want them, right into our path. And it's not to punish us, and it's not to make our life harder, even though sometimes when we're going through that emotion and we're going through that energy, it does feel harder. So it's definitely centered on an energy of teaching us to become more wiser, more authentic. And sometimes if you avoid Saturn's lessons or teachings, you will see that life will get you feeling a little bit stuck. Might be you're stuck in your own karmic energy, or you're feeling like you're repeating these patterns over and over and over again. But if you actually take time to move forward and lean into the work that Saturn does, you will definitely have a mastery of gaining not just only self-respect, but lasting success in areas of acknowledging where it is that you need to be focused. And I'm going to do a little bit of a recap on Saturn because this is a big energy. And the energy of Saturn moving into Aries does not occur very frequently. It's not like Mercury. So Saturn is known for ruling these two zodiacs and these two celestial bodies. That's the Capricorn and the Aquarius. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius before Uranus was discovered. But the element of Earth is kind of the element of Saturn. So Saturn ties quite well with Capricorn as well. It's practical, it's grounded, and there is a cycle that feels a little bit karmic with both of these zodiacs. The cycle of Saturn, how long Saturn is in each sign, it spends roughly from 2.5 to 3 years in each sign. And everybody has heard, especially if you are somebody who's always cruising those astrology streets, of a Saturn return. Your Saturn return is supposed to be that time that could feel very obstacle-ish, and it could feel very challenging. It tends to occur any time around 29 to 30 years old, and then again when you are about 58 to 60. It is seen as a major life checkpoint in astrology, and it is seen to have that area of where you feel like you're growing up, you're being hit with certain responsibilities, you're facing certain karmic ties or tributes, or maybe even repercussions or times that you thought something was swept under the rug, but then you feel that energy come back up. And it also creates this energy of stepping new phases into your life. When this transit occurs, it touches the planet or the angle in your chart that is often centered around where the big lesson is going to occur, or where you're going to feel that energy of learning or receiving energy of testes in certain areas. So for instance, if your Saturn is hitting you, let's say maybe in your 5th house, you might see areas of creativity, maybe even areas with certain individuals in your life around the energy of your leadership and also the energy of how it is that others see you. Another thing that you would possibly see with the 5th house could also be the energy around children or romance, even though the 5th house isn't traditionally known for much romance, but it is also seen around the area of will. So where it is that will might feel a little bit more objective to have some lessons. It also could be a fun and creative time. It just kind of depends on how this Saturn is affecting you and also what zodiac it's aligned with and how this movement really plays out in your birth chart. There is an energy of Saturn being somewhat of a place that doesn't necessarily limit you, but it actually allows you to create that energy of movement towards growth. And after Saturn's lessons occur, you just don't dream it. You actually achieve it, is what the main focus is for most people, but definitely it does come with some areas of challenges. So if you are somebody who is possibly going to be hit with a Saturn return as Saturn transitions over to Aries, I want you to get some confidence. Understand that this is an energy that is allowing you to mature and receive the ultimate rewards and gifts that Saturn brings. Remember, this isn't an energy that technically is aligned with Aries, because Aries is a very spontaneous, fiery energy. And this energy actually that Saturn does bring as being an earth element is more of a slow growth, and understanding that consistency and also persistence definitely pays off. So Saturn entering Aries does feel kind of like a polar opposite in some energies. We have that energy of the earth and also the energy of the fire. And while Saturn was nestled so lovely in Pisces, it's now time for it to move far, far away into the sign of Aries. Of course, with some retrogrades, Saturn will be popping its head back into Pisces. And here are some of the dates. So Saturn will traditionally transit into Aries on May 24th of 2025, and then Saturn will have a retrograde in Aries of December 5th, 2025. Saturn will then, during this retrograde period, re-enter Pisces on January 6th of 2026. And then Saturn, after the retrograde has ended, as Saturn is direct, will re-enter into Aries of February 14th of 2026. Perfect for Valentine's Day. Saturn will then leave Aries for good on April 12th of 2028. So Saturn is expected to be in Aries until 2028, of course, with the retrogrades coming and going. But this is really the beginning of this shift, is going to show us what to expect. I think the Saturn energy is going to bring up a little bit of the past. So the last time that Saturn was in Aries was right around April 7th of 1996 from June 9th to 1998, with a little bit of retrograde action that dipped back then too as well. Saturn in Aries definitely feels bold, and it feels like there is the energy of new beginnings, fierce independence, and also the energy of conflicts possibly arising. These are some of the things that occurred the last time Saturn was in Aries. So we have to remember in 1996 to 1998, what were one of the things that was definitely exploding everywhere? And that was the internet. It seemed like the dial-up was kind of taking a little bit of more advancement. There was definitely that energy of movement. People were kind of getting a little bit more centered with using technology. Online businesses, the WWs, were definitely making their presence. And also the email. The email was like a very big thing. I mean, people were like so cool if they had an email account. Nowadays, people don't even fucking check their emails. But the email was like for the CEOs, it was very like this niche, super aesthetic type thing. Like I kind of remember like the what was that movie when Harry met Sally and they're like, you've got mail. So definitely there was this brace of technology and also individualism. It was very innovative. And another thing that occurred was in September of 1998, near the end of Saturn in Aries, there was this huge innovation called Google, and Google was founded, and Google is such like this huge entity, and it's a huge business, and it's really like centered on so much. I feel like with Saturn in Aries, and also we will have Neptune in Aries, I feel like the structure of AI and also other technology advances will continue to occur. Another thing that occurred right around this time that Saturn was in Aries was Bill Clinton was reelected in 1996. And there was a lot of themes of scandal as the Monica Lewinsky scandal took over a lot of the media airwaves in 1998 with the public confrontation, the battles of power, and the image of just messiness and chaos that feels very spontaneous. I mean, I will be honest, I haven't seen a good political scandal like that one in quite some long time. We also had the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, which definitely talked about peace talks that ended decades of violence in Northern Ireland. It was seen as a rare compromise after years of confliction. Also during this time, pop culture was on a rise. We had the girl power, teen spirit, and what was so popular back then? the bands, the boy bands, the girl bands, all the bands. People were really centered in that youth and like energies of rebellion, identity, and seeing that boldness of energy. There was Britney Spears, the Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls, all of them were like, oh, just everywhere, playing on all the radio stations. Everybody loved them. Another movie that occurred during the last time Saturn was in Aries was Titanic. Titanic is an epic theme of love story, bravery, survival, and love against all odds. And that feels very like brave, like the Aries, and very determined, like Saturn would bring. Another thing that was totally booming that really reminds me of Attitude was the WWE wrestling. That really seems like egocentric and very egotistical. It had a lot of bold characters. They were wrestling and it seemed very dramatic. That really reminds me of that Saturn energy. Another thing that was very much a breakthrough was Dolly the sheep. Who remembers when they cloned Dolly the sheep? That was like very bold and new territorial in science. And there were so many ethical debates. Should we be cloning sheep? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this happened in 1996. It's already been so long. And they're probably doing so much shit that we don't know about, right? But yeah, so the ethical debates of, is this something that we should be doing, but they did it and Dolly was created. Saturn in Aries energy often pushes boundaries. And I feel like that is something that's going to happen. And the Saturn energy with Aries of pushing boundaries and then seeing the consequences later, I definitely think is something that we will get into what could possibly happen. But I'm definitely going to say that the Saturn in Aries of 1996 and 1998 makes me wonder what could possibly happen next. From this vibe of girl bands to cloning sheep, it might seem a little bit of like a Black Mirror film or some areas of cycles that continue to just re-emerge. Let's talk about some of the advances and things that could possibly happen this time around as Saturn enters Aries. So I feel like people are a little bit more aggressive than back in 1996 to 1998. Could it just be me, or are people feeling more aggressive, which we might really see with this energy? And also I think this energy could make the collective want to like take charge of certain situations and really control who they are in areas of independence, authority, and even appearance. Maybe there's going to be a rise, if there isn't a rise in plastic surgery, but people really feeling tied into controlling their own destiny, their own success, and their own life. And I feel like that energy of restrictions and responsibilities could kind of feel like a push and pull effect. I also feel like there's going to be a lot of young leaders, maybe young CEOs, more entrepreneurs and activists kind of coming in the spotlight. We also really see that activism has definitely been on a rise. And I also think that it's going to continue to kind of rise up and create people to have this energy where it's almost feeling like they are showing certain elements of who they are, how they see the collective, and how they also feel that the government has been restraining them, or maybe not just the government, but like society as a whole. So we'll kind of see that energy kind of like rise fast. I also feel like there is going to be a lot with the ego, and there's going to be a lot of ego battles. Like there isn't enough, but we're going to really see where leaderships can turn very selfish during this time. And I feel like some of us may feel like we've already seen this energy, but it's going to feel like it's going just one notch further. We're going to feel that energy of really like people are going to want everything. They're going to want it all. There might be some new political figures that could emerge out of nowhere that don't really fit the appearance of what we are used to. These leaders might look more bold and they might even be a little bit more reckless than what we are used to during this time. So we might see some energies of leadership being reckless, being bold, being assertive, and also being new in some elements. I do think there's going to be a lot of, it's going to feel like technology has just stepped up a notch even further. Many of us felt like once Pluto went into Aquarius, everything felt a little bit more innovated and it was happening so fast. I feel like when Saturn enters Aries, aligned with Neptune, it's really going to push the boundaries and it's really going to make that energy of tech and space feel like right in our fucking face. And some of us are going to feel like, oh my gosh, this is too much. But we are going to see big new beginnings with tech. And this could be artificial intelligence, this could be cloning, this could be new space exploitation, this could be missions, this could be all kinds of new kooky and controversial conspiracies that they can think of. And also, I think that some of this is going to be driven back into that ego space where the people who are starting these missions or starting these new energies or starting these new advances will really feel like kind of more of a, doing it for the ego versus the actual collective. And also the actual advances. A lot of people believe that technology continues to grow and grow and grow and grow because we are going to be at a repetitive cycle where we were once very superior in technology and for some reason it went to shit and we had to start over. But that this technology is going to continue to grow just like the patterns of the past and the karmic alignment of the past. So we will see what happens when Saturn enters Aries. I also feel like there's going to be some areas of technology, and while many of us do change our appearance with filters and with what is that when people are photoshopping Photoshop, and a lot of people change their appearance in that aspect. I also feel like there's now going to be like filters with like FaceTime. There's going to be like filters just with so much more. And I also feel like there's going to be something that is more centered around changing who you are in a conscious space that almost feels like you're creating your own virtual reality of yourself. I know it sounds weird, but I kind of feel like that. And I also feel like there's going to be more games and avenues of like virtual realities where it feels more centered with the individual and also with the self. I do think that there is definitely going to be some risk taking, and there's definitely going to be some area of people starting new projects and new businesses and taking a lot of financial risk. I mean, if it's crypto or if it's something new, but I definitely feel like a lot of people are being launching more independent projects and it's going to feel more expanded. There also might be some crash because all of this is happening too fast for Saturn's liking. So some people who aren't working at the consistent, slow and steady speed that Saturn is used to, where he puts planning and organization down, and they just feel this movement to like start something, might feel it kind of crashing down. We might see some more get-rich-quick scams and schemes, especially as Saturn is centered with Aries, that people feel that they can make a quick monumental change of changing who they are, but really bypassing by using shortcuts, and that karmic energy allows it to all crash down. So I am kind of worried about some things on an economic forefront for some individuals. So definitely be a little bit cautious where you put all of your money and put all your investments during this time. We also have to remember that during this time, we will have also Neptune with Aries as well. I definitely think there is going to be more controversy and also more energies of triggering events. While there might be times of peace talk, I think most of this energy is going to feel very explosive and also very much fast. So I don't see any resolutions occurring, even though the last time there was a resolution that did occur. But I think the reason why a resolution will occur is because this energy got so aggressive that a resolution had to occur out of defeat. So that's something that I do kind of see with Saturn entering Aries. It's also interesting because it makes me wonder about Ukraine. And one of the reasons why I wonder about Ukraine is because we know that the US is definitely kind of stepping in, like they haven't already been involved, but there is something that the government wants, and the government wants these rare minerals that are in Ukraine. And we see that energy of the earth, and we also see that energy of the earth element, Saturn, boundaries, karma, conflict, and aggression with Aries. So it makes me wonder what's going to happen with Ukraine. Is there going to ever, are they going to come up with a resolution? Is the US going to help them get some kind of deal where they're able to basically have Russia back off because now the US is in contract with Ukraine over these rare minerals, over that earth element? Anytime we're thinking about the earth and energies of financial gain, we're going to see that energy of responsibility and due diligence really come out, and how it not only benefits the person who are behind these power moves, but also with the energy of being leaders and also that energy of being impulsive. So I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen there. If there is some peace deals, I think it's going to be with Ukraine. Also, I want to talk about definitely is the areas of maturity that occurs when Saturn enters Aries, and that energy of maturity and that energy of individual impulsiveness might create an energy that feels like this impulsive subconscious movement and reckless movement and naive movement of Pisces is now over, and Saturn is more centered around conflict. But the areas that we definitely know with conflict is really centered around there being a flare-up or a shift. It could be a shift in negotiations, or it could be a shift into that messy, spontaneous, karmic takeover. So we will see. I will say on a personal level, and if you're centered around how this is affecting you on a personal level, one of the things that you want to look at with Saturn entering Aries is, who are you as an individual? How do you feel as an individual in where it is that you are with your boundaries, responsibilities? What do you really want in this world, right? What do you really want in this life? And what are you really willing to fight for? What are the things that matter the most to you on a personal accountability? And also, how are you going to use those energies of responsibilities and also that energy of karma and boundaries to let it all tie in? We have to remember that Aries is about action. So if we haven't been taking those action steps, It's not going to get any more grounded than right now. So people might really see a shift in their personal lives. This could be meaning that they're restructuring their jobs, their relationships, their careers, or their overall lifestyle to truly be centered in that area of who they are with this new movement. I do think with this energy, like I said, that I almost feel like this energy is going to be really tied into the ego and appearance. But since Aries rules the head and the body movement, I expect there's going to be trends that are around physical health, fitness, strength training, brain health, and mental stamina. I mean, health is very important and we all see this, but I wonder if it's going to get even more like one step up. Are we going to see new things come out? Are we going to see new coaching strategies? Are people going to be centered around something new or something more innovative that really helps and allows them to have not just centered around more movement towards a healthier lifestyle and being centered around fitness and living, but also being centered around that survivalist, that energy of being a little bit more mentally tough and a little bit more centered around, again, self-defense or boundaries or responsibilities, but really seeing that mental toughness kind of be structured. We have to remember that Saturn is that energy of here, I'm grounded. You're not going to shake me up. And it's like this movement of being bold, being wise, and also understanding who you are and how you can move forward and be unstoppable. So many of you are probably wondering, how can I take action? Well, one of the first things is to be bold, be driven, be consistent. You want to move towards your dreams, but you want to move with intention. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for some dreamy event to occur. Saturn is centered around rewards that have a root base. So you are going to have to see that energy of rewards has to come from traditional rooting, foundation, planning, and steps. You're also going to want to master your impulses. While there's times that you might be feeling very impulsive, you want to allow yourself to feel it, but don't allow yourself to be so impulsive that it creates a bad look or a bad decision. So you definitely want to be able to get tuned into that grounding element that Saturn allows us. You're also going to want to create some energy around, like I said, fitness, strength training, and mental clarity. With times changing, we don't know what's going to happen next, but what we do know is that we have to kind of stay ready for anything. So one of the ways that you're going to do that is to create a daily practice, even if it's like 10 to 20 minutes, where you build energies of self-trust. You also build energies of feeding your body things that are going to make you feel well and also have you a little bit more stronger. If that's working on crossword puzzles, if that is studying something new, being more creative, but definitely practice certain things that will have you feeling spiritually grounded and also centered around spiritually feeling strong and feeling proud about these achievements. So you're going to want to create energies of daily rituals and consistency that feed back into you and only you, the individual, not anybody else, just you. And especially during this time as Saturn is in Aries. Another thing that you can do is start something new, something that really enhances who you are. If that's starting a podcast, writing a book, creating a project. Saturn in Aries loves being brave with a fundamental structure. So even though this energy might feel messy, you have to really dive into the area of possibilities. Am I able to start a business? Am I able to do something on the side? Am I able to strengthen my talents, my character, who I am as an individual? Can I put another notch on my belt? Really look at it as a energy that takes time and structure for the next 2 years, so success will come out as this is transitioning over whatever place it is in your birth chart. Another thing that I really think everybody should work on when we are working with this energy is strengthening your boundaries. Aries wants to fight first. Aries is that energy that can tussle with the best of them. But healthy boundaries doesn't necessarily mean that you're a fighter all the time. It means that you understand who you are. You have this area of strength and also survival. You have this energy that feels not centered around being passive, but being centered around being assertive. You aren't necessarily aggressive, but you aren't a people pleaser. You take time to stand your ground, and you take time to show people who you are and how come certain situations either can or cannot happen because of your boundaries. So definitely take that courage that the Aries allows us to bring and strengthen some of those boundaries. Also, we have to remember that when we're strengthening our boundaries, we have to allow ourselves to be patient. We have to allow that patientness to really move forward into the next purpose. So while Saturn in Aries is a new shift, a new time, we have to remember that there are a few things that we're going to hold true to ourselves. That's being assertive and also be centered around self-empowerment. And it leads to many figures of being bold and taking those risks. We're going to see this action coming through as it is aligned with that trailblazing energy of Aries that is going to be centered in both the energy of shifts on an interpersonal space and also on a global energy. There's definitely going to be some conflicts and challenges, but it is expected. That is something in a whole that can really happen. And these times of Saturn in Aries may feel a little bit rapid and somewhat reckless, but it is a center where we're going to understand that there's boldness and bravery behind this aspect. And if it's in interpersonal places or if it's in centers of social circles, take this time to look at the consequences and also of the actions around them. Don't think too hard, but think hard enough where you understand that every action comes with a reaction, and seeing that sometimes being extremely impulsive sometimes isn't the best thing, and allow that Saturn energy to feel more rooted and centered. We definitely have to remember that Aries rules the body, especially the head and the muscles and the energy around movement. So this energy can really step us up a notch in our own personal battles of discipline and consistency. We have to remember a strong body equals a strong spirit and unstoppable willpower. Consistency is key, and we're going to let this aspect play that way. I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Let me know how you feel Saturn in Aries is going to affect the collective. What scandals do you think might reoccur from the past? And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share this podcast with your witchy bestie. Everybody have an amazing day. Bye.